This is Calvin Castine. It's the 25th day of June 2005, and we're at the Champlain Fire Station in beautiful downtown Champlain on Elm Street. And there's an open house going on. It's a Saturday afternoon, 90 degrees outside, and fortunately it's shady in here with a little bit of a breeze coming in, but it's breezing through at 90 degrees, so we are comfortable because of the breeze, but that's about it. We're here for an open house, as I may have just said, and there's going to be a little bit of action at the podium. We'll be here to record that. We see families from at least a couple of different longtime firemen who have died within the last year or so. And we have reason to suspect that maybe some of what happens today might be remembering those fallen comrades. So we hope you'll stick around and watch. Our intent is to put this on Sunday, the day after this event takes place, so we can present it in a timely manner. See Chris Tremblay.
Glad to get started. It's been a nice cool day, and where you guys would like to probably get out here and get some short. I'd like to welcome everybody to the 2005 Champlain Emergency Services Open House. And again, we really appreciate you taking your absence out to this nice warm Saturday. There's about a million other places we could be. We're here, and we really appreciate it. I'd like to start off by just welcoming some special guests. Everybody here is a special guest, including our retired EMS personnel. First of all, we have from the Town of Champlain Town Board, we have Clifford Mars. Is Wade ready? From the Champlain Village Board, we're forgetting Wade coming out, Mr. Greg Martin. Board of Fire Commissioners. Board of Fire Commissioners, we have Mr. John Fillion behind me, which is the chairman of the Champlain Fire District. Mr. Southwick, John Southwick, cannot be here. Ken LaPlante, who is over here, also chairman of the Champlain Fire District, or excuse me, commissioner, Champlain Fire District. And Martin Bayshard, Paul Lapeer, cannot be here today. The most important member of the fire district, though, is the treasurer, Mr. Jack Dawson. He's here, way in the back. The ice machine is here. From the original Champlain Rescue Group, Champlain Rescue was a group that was organized back in 1974 to start an ambulance in the Champlain Village area, later to the town of Champlain. In the original group, we have Mr. Jim Trow over here, and his wife Anna. With Champlain EMS, we have again Ken LaPlante, who's our current EMS captain, Tammy Tremblay, who's our assistant EMS captain. From the Rosses Point Fire Department, Village Rosses Point, I believe Junior Moore is here, but he left. He's one of the one of the village councilmen. We have Mr. Mike LeBlanc here, who is a assistant fire chief with Rosses Point. From Moores, we have Chief Ron Boyce in the back. And from Sheezy, we have Mike Cahoon, who's also a deputy coordinator for hazardous materials. And I threw that in because we have a hazardous materials trailer in the back that you're welcome to look at, and Mike can answer any questions about that trailer. Also behind me, we have, of course, the most important person, Chief Bruce Barcombe. Next to him is Mr. Kelly Donahue, who is the Assistant Emergency Services Director for Clinton County and the Clinton County Fireman's Chaplain. From CVTH and formerly from Cherubusco, formerly from Peru, formerly from I think Shazy, Mr. Mike Agree from CVTH EMS. From Hometown Cable, we have the owner and Chief Operating Engineer, Calvin Castine. And from the State Police, New York State Police Troop B, we have Trooper Gagne, who's also in charge of the rollover simulator today. Some of our very distinguished guests today are members of our family from Mr. Dwayne Tremblay, and also the family of Mr. Lee Guerin, two of our past members who we miss very much. So with that, we'd like to do an opening blessing. We ask Kelly Donahue to do that, please.
Let us pray. Lord God, we give you the thanks for the gift of life and the gift of love. Today we celebrate that gift, a memorial to two firefighters who have given the extreme sacrifice, their life. But we remember today their life and their love, the dedication that they had for this community. And we give joy for those who continue to be here to serve the community well. At this open house, you're able to see and experience and meet these people. That's a gift, because they dedicated their life and they continue to dedicate their life to serve you, the people of Champlain and the surrounding communities. Lord God, we give you thanks and praise for this gift. May you continue to bless us today as we celebrate your love and grace.
Thank you, Kelly. Now we just have a few brief words from the Fire Chief, Mr. Bruce Barkholm. Brief, he said brief. On behalf of the Board of Fire Commissioners, the officers of the Champlain Fire Department, the membership of Niagara Hose Company Number 1, and the Ladies Auxiliary, I would like to welcome all of you here, along with Chris, for our open house and our dedication. Like Chris said, it's a very hot, steamy day, and we'll try not to be long-winded. However, we rarely get a chance to address everyone and talk to you, and we'd like to spend a moment today. Today, as you walk through our station, if some of you have been here earlier and some just arrived, I would like you to look around at our equipment, actually your equipment. This is your fire station, the taxpayers, your equipment, and we are proud to use the equipment that's provided to us. As you look around today, you'll see a fire truck out there that's almost 31 years old, is 31 years old, and you'll see it up to a brand new fire truck that we've just obtained in February, which is behind you, the truck that has the large numbers 141 on it. Basically, the fire department has undergone some major changes over the last few years. In the year 2000, a fire district was formed. The purpose for forming the fire district was we were village owned, and due to the loss of assessed value and declining money and aging fleet of vehicles, we basically had to come up with a plan that was going to allow us to upgrade our equipment, your equipment, and continue on. The village did everything in its power and within its means to help us out, and basically we had to come up with a plan. So in 2000, through the efforts of a group of dedicated firefighters who pursued this avenue, and two boards, the Village of Champlain Board and the Town of Champlain Board, we all proceeded forward, and in 2000 we became a fire district. What does a fire district mean to you, the taxpayers, and to us? Basically what it means is everybody is taxed evenly and the same. Prior to becoming a district, village residents were paying a higher tax rate for fire and EMS coverage. Town residents were paying a lower tax rate. Basically, when you become a fire district, the tax rate is the same for everybody that receives this emergency services protection. So what it means in the big picture and in the long run is increased revenue for the fire department to operate and start replacing these vehicles, and it's a more fair way for all of you, the citizens. And through those efforts, we formed, like I said, in 2000. In 2002, 2 years into we actually created a 10-year plan at the formation of the district. This 10-year plan
was created to replace these vehicles that were getting old, and that formulated the use of a capital reserve fund, which we started in 2000. In 2002, we were able to replace the ambulance that you see here today. The ambulance was approximately $130,000, and we were able to pay for the ambulance when it was ready, when we took possession of the ambulance, no financing. That meant the savings of basically the savings, if you figure out the interest times most loans were 10 years, it's almost half of the value of the vehicle. So you're talking, well over $70,000 on the ambulance we saved. The new fire truck you're looking at, and we will be dedicating earlier today, was $329,000. That is the cost of doing business in the emergency services. That truck also, in 2005, after 3 more years of capital reserve funding, was also paid for in full at the time of delivery. So we were able to avoid the finance charges, again saving hundreds of thousands of dollars to you, the taxpayers. So what I would like to, if nothing else today, what I would like to really relay to you, we have coverage, Chris? What I'd like to really relay to you today is that you do have a very talented board of fire commissioners who work tirelessly to protect your investment, to make sure that we have the proper, most up-to-date equipment that we can obtain. They are very supportive. They are a very tough board. From my behalf, I have to justify everything that we do, and I am just very pleased at how well that you are represented. A little distracted. We're having a call during our incident here. So basically, I would like to just again thank all of you for your support. I welcome you all to take a walk around and see where your tax money goes down here. We are a very fortunate group. We have a great group of individuals who are very dedicated, who come to your aid 24/7, and we will continue to do that thanks to the efforts of everybody here. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Very well-spoken words. As Bruce said, we had a call. It's nothing too serious, which is good, but what it comes down to is more Michigans for us. So that's good. Also missed a couple people. Dr. John Southwick is also a Champlain Board of Fire Commissioners commissioner is here. Thanks, John. And Secretary. Also, Lori McCaldy, who's the treasurer of Champlain EMS and owner of Financial Tally. Thanks, Lori, and her husband. And also Stacy Gooley, who's offered his services today, help us with Michigans, all that kind of good stuff. Stacy's a very busy person, like most business people are, but he took some time up to come up and support us as he does all throughout the year. So thanks, Stacy. Now we have, as Bruce mentioned, we talked about the Champlain Fire District. It's meant a lot to me. It's meant a lot to a lot of people when we started it. And the person who's more or less in charge of it, or at least chairs it, and has done a great job, is Chairman John Toyon. John?
Thank you, Chris. Today is probably one of the prouder days in my life. I've been involved in the fire service for 35, 36 years now. And 5 years ago, a group of us were allowed to be your fire commissioners. We started out with a hope to better the department, make it safer, give their people the stuff that they needed to work for, or to work with, excuse me. I think in 5 years' time, we have come a long ways. I can remember the first meeting 5 years ago, January, when the first thing that came up was that the fire department, Niagara Hose, lent us $2,000 so we could start in business. We didn't have anything. The next thing that was on the agenda was that we had to go out and borrow $129,000 to pay the debt off on the fire station and the equipment that was here at the time. I can say at this time, we have paid the debt off, we bought an ambulance, and we bought a brand new state-of-the-art truck. This truck is designed with manpower in mind. It's making it easier for the declining population of firefighters to be able to do their work. The truck is set up very progressively where they can do a lot more with less people, which is like in any other business today. The equipment is replacing the people. With the declining population of people that are volunteering, which I'm not trying to degrade anybody or anything like that, but we have to do something to keep up. Like I said, I'm just so proud of the department, the group, everybody in the whole. It's been one big united effort to make the improvements that we have made in these 5 years, and I think personally that we have done a good job for you. Hope we have done a good job for you. Anybody that's interested, our meetings are every third Tuesday at the town hall. We more than welcome people to come. We ask you to come. The other thing that I would like to do right now, that's something that's been a long time coming that I've wanted to do, is that I have a lot of people that I want to thank. This is probably the first time that we've had a chance to get representatives from most of these organizations here. But when we started out, the town of Champlain, they gave us an office, they gave us everything that we needed, that we could do, anything that they could do to help us out, they did. The village of Champlain. Yes, we had to pay them off for the stuff and stuff like that, but they did everything to make it easier for us and to get us where we are today. The firefighters, Niagara Hose, the auxiliary, it's just been one big united effort, and believe me, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank every one of you. I think that we have something, we are well on our way to having this one of the more modern fire departments around, and basically for the safety of our firefighters and for their efforts and everything else. I think that we are very much on the right direction. As Bruce said, it's great, it's wonderful, it's been a great group to work with. I want to thank all of you people for supporting us, and God bless.
Excellent words, John. Thank you very much. One person, again, I forgot, is Miss Barb Robbins, who's been involved with Champlain EMS, Champlain Rescue, both, and she's done a really good job. She's on the Champlain EMS board right now, and she does a really great job, and she also runs senior housing in Champlain and does an excellent job with that. So, Barb and her husband, Jim. Next, we have the chairman of Champlain EMS. I would like to say a few words, Mr. Paul Seymour. Paul?
Thanks, Chris. He's forgotten a lot of people today. I wrote these notes down really because they had to be approved by Ken before I could get up here. But good afternoon to everyone. My name is Paul Seymour. I'm here representing Champlain EMS. And thank you for attending the open house today. It was as difficult for me as it was for you. I would first like to take an opportunity to thank all the local volunteers and EMS members that make our collective ambulance service possible. Some of my fellow board members are here. Barb Robbins, as Chris just mentioned. Tammy Trombley, assistant captain is in the back. Ken is the captain. Hannah Toviak, I don't believe, is here today. And Lori McCauley, our secretary. I thought it might be appropriate to first talk about the need for the current EMS corporation. I was approached by Ken LaPlante, the EMS captain in 2003, to be on the board of a soon-to-be-formed EMS corporation. As it turns out, in 2003, I really wasn't sure what EMS even stood for. You know, I really have no concept of this sort of thing at all. And so I couldn't understand why, in fact, he wanted me to be a part of this particular organization, but I certainly was honored that he did. That time, EMS coverage in Champlain during the day was becoming a problem. Volunteers just couldn't respond as quickly as was needed. Many solutions were discussed, and it was finally decided that the formation of an EMS district in the town of Champlain was the answer. With the formation of the corporation, paid personnel were hired between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. Before the EMS corporation was formed, response times were approximately 7 to 10 minutes. If you can imagine, if you were there waiting for an ambulance to arrive, during the day, most of these people are working. They had to leave their places of work, come here to the fire station, kind of band together, and then off they would go to your home or business. Most volunteers, of course, were working during the day, and there was no guarantee of a prompt response during those particular hours. With the advent of the hire of the paid personnel, the average response time, now for all calls, not just during the day, but the average response time for calls day and night is now averaging only 4 minutes. You know, it's a long, as I say, after waiting, it's a long time between 4 minutes and 10 minutes. The formation of the corporation provided for a paid service during the day, which allowed Champlain EMS to charge the end users for the service. There's been some confusion over this particular area because of the charge for the ambulance, so I thought I might just bring a couple statistics here with me today. Only 15% of the revenue that has been collected thus far, this has nothing to do with support from the town, but the revenue that has come in from all sources other than the town, only 15% of that has come from individuals. The balance of it has come from Medicaid, Medicare, and insurance companies. If the Champlain EMS Corporation was not formed, none of those monies would be available to provide the services that we are provided here today. We believe here at Champlain EMS that the decision to form this corporation was the right decision and was made to move in the current direction. We have a highly skilled group of people, both volunteer and paid personnel. Currently, the roster includes 6 advanced level EMTs, 7 basic EMTs, and 8 drivers. And I was asked to say that they are, of course, always looking for volunteers. Last year, EMS completed 457 calls. So far this year, 245 calls have been completed as of this week. These numbers indicate that the calls are up 40% over prior years. I really find that hard to believe that that calls are up 40% more. My interpretation would be that bordering towns are experiencing the same kind of problems that Champlain was experiencing before the EMS Corporation was formed, and rather than to try to find their volunteers, they're calling us because they know they can get a faster response time. From a financial standpoint, Champlain EMS is on solid footing. We entered into a long-term contract with the town that provides funding that won't increase the taxpayer's cost over a 5-year period of time. Since it doesn't increase, the burden to the taxpayer will not increase, and as assessments go up, basically we expect that our burden is going to go down somewhat. We have had to set aside funds to provide for the purchase and upgrade for the very expensive equipment that is used in the work of emergency medical services. We are confident that we'll be in a position to both meet those financial obligations and provide for an even higher level service for the town of Champlain. In closing, Celine Paquette is not here, but I would like to acknowledge our single past member of the Board of Directors. Celine was instrumental in virtually all of the decisions in the formation and startup of Champlain EMS. And on behalf of Champlain EMS, I would like to thank her, and I would also like to thank you. Thank you.
Very nice words, Paul. Thank you very much. I'm very proud of that because I'm the one that
gave Kenny Paul's name, and I was hoping I volunteered him for the job, and he did a great job, does a great job. Next we have, and our paid guys aren't here right now because they're on a call, so we're going to introduce our paid staff, Brian Pelkey from Ross's Point, and Tim Miller from Morris, who are also very good firemen, very good EMS personnel in their own departments. They do a great job for us. Next, I would like to introduce our final speaker is Mr. Mike Legree. As I mentioned before, Mike was from Cherubusco, New York. He's worked in Northern Insuring and different professional agencies for many years. Now he's manager of EMS at CDPH, if I believe I have that right. Give him your proper title. Mike, if you could come up and say a few words, we'd really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Ken LaPlante asked me to speak. I said, how long? He said, oh, 2.5 hours shouldn't cover it. I can't do that to myself or to you. I wondered why he asked me, but I think he was looking for an old-timer who could speak on the topic of EMS in Clinton County, its roots, and its future. I can certainly talk about its roots because I have been around for a little while. As has already been mentioned, I cut my teeth in EMS in Cherubusco. If any of you don't know where that is, it's a booming metropolitan area about 25 miles west of here. I spent 5 years there, and then I moved on to the Peru Fire Department. Spent 19 years in that service, an affiliation that I'm very, very proud of. I have been an EMT for 30 years and an advanced EMT for some 20 years now. In fact, I think Ken and I were in the first advanced EMT class together. And again, it's been a very rewarding and worthwhile career for me. But today I want to talk to you a little bit about EMS, where it started and where it's going. You heard Mr. Seymour mention just a few minutes ago that he didn't even know what EMS stood for a couple of years ago when he got involved with this organization. My sense is that's the way that generally the public feels about EMS. All they really want to know is that when they have a medical problem and they pick up the phone and they call 911, that trained people are going to get there quickly and treat them well. There's been national surveys that have been done, and that's what people look for. They want somebody who treats them nice, knows what they're doing, and gets there fast. 3 simple things. They sound simple. They aren't always so simple. Well, let me tell you about the evolution of EMS. It started out, it's really relatively new. It started in the late 50s and early 60s as sort of its own entity. EMS in a lot of communities, and in fact I think right here in Champlain, was delivered by funeral directors for a long time. Now you talk about a conflict of interest. No, Mr. Legree, you don't look blue. No, Mr. Legree, you don't need oxygen. They take you head first to the hospital and bring you feet first back to your hometown. All kidding aside, the funeral directors did a great service for a good many communities for a good many years. Fire departments started doing EMS work. Some of them grudgingly, I have to say, got into EMS. The relationship that exists here between the Champlain Fire Department and the Champlain EMS organization is a good one. It's not always that good in every community. There are bumps in the road. There are separate volunteer EMS agencies in the county today. Morrisonville EMS is a total separate entity from the fire department. Ausable Forks EMS. CDPH EMS is a completely distinct and separate EMS agency. We happen to be fully paid. Our folks don't do anything unless they get paid for it. In the beginning, let's talk about in the beginning, back in the late 50s, early 60s. Well, first of all, dispatch was very primitive. Usually it consisted of a phone tree. You made a call to a number, and Joe took the call, and then Joe called Phil, and then Phil had to call Mary and John, and Mary and John had to call 2 more people, and that's how people got notified of ambulance calls or any calls. There were no pagers in those days. Can you imagine life without a pager today? I can't. I would like to be able to imagine it sometimes. Equipment was extremely limited. We had oxygen on board early ambulances. We had wooden backboards. Everybody remembers the work details to cut backboards out of 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch marine plywood and varnish them up. How many people remember the short wooden backboards with the 3 notches in the top that we use cravats to secure a patient's head? Don't have those anymore. We had resuscitators that were as big as those tool cabinets in the back corner. Took 3 men and a boy to lift them, and hardly anybody knew how to use them, and they weren't very effective. We used military-style bandages, and we had old-fashioned stretchers and litters in the old days. Stretchers were just a deadlift. You'd bring them out of the ambulance, on the ground they go. They were upright in one position or all the way to the ground. Not like the stretchers that we see today in today's modern ambulances. I think it was a you call, we haul, that's all scenario, early days. We all tried in early EMS not to cause any additional harm. That was the watchword of those times. If you had basic EMT, basic first aid, or even advanced first aid, you were well respected in your community because they needed you. Communications was very poor at best. Now I know I have the assistant emergency services director sitting behind me, but I can tell you, in my early days in the fire service, it was a well-known fact that the dispatchers on nights fell asleep. And I have first-hand knowledge of that. We had an MVA one time in Cherubusco. We called and called and called on the radio, and there was no response. Finally, we were able to get somebody to answer us. We needed them to notify we had a young man that was pretty severely injured to go to Aliside Hospital in Malone. When we got to Aliside Hospital in Malone, when I got out of the ambulance, the emergency room door was locked, and that section of the hospital was dark. And I pounded on that door. And about a minute later, this little old security or maintenance guy hobbled to the door, unlocked it, looked at me and said, "I'll see if I can find somebody." Now, that was a warm fuzzy for me, for sure. I mean, here we have this trauma patient in the back of our ambulance, and the ER is locked. Finally, a nurse came. We got the patient in. Those are times well in the past that, believe me, are gone. Ambulances today have changed so much from the early days. Our first ambulance in Cherubusco, if that's my wife, I am here, because this got me out of doing some jobs around home today. It was too hot anyway. Our first ambulance in Cherubusco, the ceiling was so low that if we had to do CPR on a patient, we had to leave our stretcher at the scene and do CPR on the floor on a long backboard, because there wasn't room to get over the top of the paper and over the top of the patient and do proper CPR. We made a big step forward in the late 60s, early 70s, thanks largely in part to the United States military and the U.S. Department of Transportation, who developed the first curriculum for an emergency medical technician course. Except in the old days, they were not called emergency medical technicians, they were called medical emergency technicians, or METs. Does anybody remember the old METs? I have a patch somewhere. I think it's going to be worth something someday. I don't know where it is, but I know I have it. But if you had a MET in your department, you were truly blessed. That title was later changed to EMT. Equipment improved, training improved, care to patients improved in the 70s. Essentially what had happened into the late 70s and the early 80s with the advent of advanced emergency medical care, the emergency room was extended into the field to treat patients. Do you have any idea the capabilities of the volunteers and the paid staff that are in the communities today, like Champlain? Let me just give you an overview. They can defibrillate. They can pace a patient whose heart is not beating. They can administer cardiac drugs. They can intubate, which means pass a tube directly into the patient's trachea to help them breathe and to breathe for them. They can do IV therapy. They can give all kinds of other drugs for allergic reactions, overdoses, hypertension, various other cardiac emergencies. They do chest decompressions. They can actually insert a needle into the chest of an unconscious, unresponsive trauma patient to let air out of their chest so that they can be resuscitated. And they can do all kinds of other high-tech stuff. Most people don't have a clue that that's what goes on in communities like Champlain and others today. So EMS today, well, You already know about expensive ambulances and expensive equipment, state-of-the-art equipment, lightweight portable equipment, which is a godsend, high-tech communications. We have a radio system in Clinton County that rivals anything you would find in places like New York City, Chicago, San Francisco, Miami, you name it. It's an 800 megahertz radio system. It is state-of-the-art. There's nothing better out there, and we have it here in Clinton County. People have no idea how many lives are saved every day around this county by advanced EMTs. So right here in Champlain, the very same people that you see at the coffee shop or at the post office in the morning are able to carry out some 46 different advanced life support saving protocols, as well as administer a variety of up to 30 different drugs in the field, some on their own, some by talking to a physician. So where are we going? Where's the future? Well, you heard Mr. Seymour mention that call volume is up. Everybody's call volume is up. Our call volume at CVPH is going through the roof. The baby boomers are getting older. People continue to call ambulances and need medical care. 12 lead EKGs. Are you aware of the fact that your ambulance service in this community can do a 12 lead EKG that is comparable to what would be done in an emergency room? And they can transmit that information by radio so that your 12 lead EKG is looked at by a physician, and the physician makes a determination that you need to go in for primary angioplasty. So while you're taking the ambulance ride from Champlain to Plattsburgh, the cardiac team is being mobilized so that when you get there, you can go directly into the cath lab and have your clogged vessels opened up. It's because 12 lead EKGs are state-of-the-art, and they're doing them here. And we're going to do more and more of that around the county, but you folks here are on the cutting edge of that kind of technology, and I certainly applaud you for that. The Heart Center at CVPH is going to save a lot of lives. I have to get that little plug in. But the reason it's going to save lives is because we have to have the system in place in the county so that the people who need that treatment are getting early intervention from advanced EMTs in the field and being brought to CVPH or any hospital for that matter in a quick fashion so that they can have their clogged vessels opened up, because it's very simple. Time is muscle when you're in the midst of a heart attack. The longer your vessels stay closed, the more damage you'll have to your heart. I just would like to summarize at the end, to close this little presentation this afternoon, where I think EMS in Clinton County is going. I think it's going the way of the paid service. I commend the leadership of this district for figuring that out a few years ago. It was a very tough pill for a lot of communities to swallow, that the volunteers could no longer meet the needs and respond to the calls in a timely fashion, and that we needed to get some paid staff in here. But it is the way of the future. It's working in Peru-Keysville. It's working in Champlain. It's working in Ausable Forks. It's working in Saranac-Denimora, and it's working at CVPH. And it'll continue to expand as things go forward. I'm sorry, but that's the reality of it. Must be a die-hard volunteer. EMS in Clinton County, I think, is the top priority going forward. With all due respect to the fire service, EMS calls outpace fire by 3.5 to 1. Well, nobody wants to have a fire today. People are more fire conscious. Our fire prevention programs have been working. The messages in our schools are working. Building codes and ordinances are causing less and less fires to occur out there. But people are still getting sick. People still need medical treatment. Our Achilles heel right now is the ability to deliver it with the personnel that we have. Our experienced providers are either burning out or, frankly, dying off. I can't start an IV anymore without my reading glasses, or I can't read the vial of medication without my glasses. We need more people to get involved in advanced EMT classes. We desperately need that new generation to step forward across the board. And I would challenge every agency that they need to think creatively, and they need to sort of put the ways of the past behind them because it's not working. And think creatively and look at new and different ways to get the job done, because we have to deliver this service. And if we don't, who will? Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I wish you well on all your future endeavors. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Excellent job. Words were very well spoken. And this past couple years ago, I had a family member that was very, very sick. I didn't realize how sick she was. But by the time I got to her house, our guys were there, and I had my doubts, I had my concerns too until that day. So you're right. That's the way to go. We're going to come to the conclusion of this thing. What we're going to do is dedicate our new 141 truck to Dwayne Trombley, former Deputy Fire Coordinator and past Chief of Champlain, and Lee Guerin. Before we do that, just want to remind everybody that we do have submissions from Stacy Gooley. Dave Lucia is here from Altona West AZ Fire Department, former Chief of Altona. He has a thermal imaging camera that we're trying to obtain. He'll put on a good demonstration. It's just amazing the technology that's out there. And we also have a crew, our own crew, that's going to demonstrate our new truck. Even if you're not in the fire service or anything of that nature, this is your truck, like Bruce said. Go out, let them show you what's going on, and I guarantee you it'll cool you off a little bit anyway. So, in closing, what we'd like to do is just gather around the back of this new pumper with the Tremblay family and the Guerin family, and we'll continue from there. Thanks, everybody.
Quickly, because it's hot, but I also want to take the time to do this right. We are all gathered here right now to dedicate this new fire truck, our greatest pride right now, to Dwayne Trombley and Lee Guerin. I am going to read this because I wanted to surmise the best way I could without stumbling over words. It is with great sorrow and great pride that I stand here today on behalf of the entire Champlain Emergency Services to honor and dedicate our new 2005 KME pumper to our fallen brother firefighters, Dwayne Trombley and Lee Guerin. Dwayne Trombley joined the Champlain Fire Department on April 7, 1962, and served for many years as an active firefighter, chief, and deputy coordinator for Clinton County. Dwayne was an innovator, creating such devices as remote control starters 25 years before they were even invented. Along with creating sophisticated switch panels and various types of control panels for our apparatus. He basically built most of the vehicles in the 1970s. All of our fire trucks now are custom built to our specifications. Back then you ordered a basic fire truck, and when it came in you had to do what you had to do. In fact, many of these vehicles were bought as regular commercial vehicles, and then they were created into fire vehicles. Dwayne was an innovator and was a fantastic person for doing such things. Dwayne was very serious about firefighting, but he always had a laugh to offer to all of us. Anybody who knew Dwayne knew that he always had a laugh for us. Dwayne left us on November 6, 2004, and we know Dwayne rides with engine 141 because we have his name on the back of 141. Okay. Lee Guerin joined the Champlain Fire Department on June 30th, 1980. Lee was a very aggressive firefighter, obtaining the highest level of state fire certification. Lee held the office of lieutenant several times and carried out assignments to its completion. Lee would always make his fellow firefighters laugh also. Lee was a jokester. Lee, no matter what the situation was, whether it be a fire call, a serious incident, or just a work detail, before it was done, we all had a laugh on Lee, or Lee had a laugh on us, one way or the other. And Lee left us with a few words of wisdom. That was one of his famous words to the comedian was get her done. That's what he always said when the job was done, get her done. So it was a little inside humor with that joke. So it is with great pride that we dedicate our new 2005 KME custom pumper to Dwayne Trombley and Lee Guerin. I'd like the families to come up, and we have just a little momentum to offer to you that you can display at your homes or just to keep for a memento's sake on behalf of Dwayne and Lee, because they were two of our finest, and I applaud them both. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much, and we thank you all for coming. And Kelly would like to say a few words on behalf of this dedication also.
On behalf of the Office of Emergency Services, thank you, Champlain, for your continued service in this county. It was said earlier, they are on the cutting edge, and it's to the dedication of firefighters here. That's why we are who we are in Clinton County, ahead of many other counties. Our radio communications that was mentioned earlier by Michael Legree, it is top-notch, and many areas do look at the desire of having that radio communications, but it was the dedication of the legislators and Mr. King, who just recently retired, for the reason why we have such a good radio communications. But it's also you as taxpayers that are willing enough to sacrifice. You know, things aren't getting cheap nowadays. It's getting harder to take the money out of our pockets to give to these type of organizations. But the reality is, without doing that, without willing to sacrifice, we can't do with what we have with the old technology. We need the new technology to continue to provide us with the equipment that we need to continue to protect the people of Clinton County and the Champlain district. So on behalf of the emergency services, in my other hat, we'd like to thank you and know that our support will continue to be with you at this time. And for a final blessing, may the blessing of the Lord grant this apparatus in the dedication and memory of Dwayne Tremblay and Lee Guerin. May the dedication and the love and the sacrifice that they did for us, may this truck be there as a memory for them and the continued memory of the firefighters who will work within this community. Amen. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. May the Lord bless you and strengthen you, and may you keep cool.
This concludes our service, and thank you all for coming one more time. And please mingle around. We're going to do a demonstration with Chris at the truck. There's food, there's drinks, and make yourself at home. This is your department and your emergency services. Thank you. Thank
At this point, we're going to have a rollover demonstration with Trooper Christopher Gagno.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Champlain Fire Department's open house. I had the honor and privilege of Mr. LaPlante, part of the EMS, invite me here of our New York State Police rollover demonstration. This rollover is sponsored by Utica National Insurance Group in conjunction with the New York State Police Cooper Foundation. What we have here is what used to be a Chevy S10 vehicle, just a little compact, put on the trailer, and it's gonna roll. Okay. The purpose of it is to demonstrate the reason why there is a seatbelt law and why we enforce it. That it keeps the occupants of the vehicle secure, reduces injury, and oftentimes prevents fatalities. Okay. This rollover is equivalent to a 25-mile-an-hour rollover accident, which is very slow considering the speeds of what we travel today. I'm sure all of you can say that driving down Route 11, speeds on Route 11 are anywhere between 55, 70 miles an hour at any given time, and there's oftentimes people traveling a lot faster. A lot of people won't wear their seatbelts because they think they're a safe driver. What we have to realize on the road is that it's not just us, okay? You may be safe, you may never have been in an accident, never had a ticket, but you have the intoxicated person driving at you, the young kid that's on the cell phone not paying attention, somebody else reaching down for a CD on the floor, a commercial vehicle, they hit your vehicle rolls over, you don't have your seatbelt on, you're ejected, okay? 10% of all accidents result in rollover, okay? Of the 10% of the rollover accidents, 28% result in fatality, okay? And I do believe recently here in Champlain, we had a rollover accident, okay? I'm sure some of you went to, which an individual ended up under the vehicle with injuries, okay? And it can be a very traumatic scene when you get there, whether it's on our part or EMS fire department, to see somebody under the vehicle. Injuries are, traumatic. So what I'm going to do first is I have a child in a child safety seat in the front seat over here. Obviously there's no airbag. And I have an adult on the other side. I have them all strapped in. I'm going to roll the simulator and let you see that the belts keep them in there, hopefully, because I did it a little while ago and one of them came out, but it's not supposed to. Okay, as you can see in this rollover right here, it's rolled approximately 15 to 20 times. In a normal accident, you're not going to roll that many times. You're going to have to be going extremely fast for it to roll that many times. But I roll it a few extra times just to show you that with all this rolling, the occupants stay in there. On the road is we're out there enforcing the seatbelt laws. We're preaching about having our kids in the seatbelts, in the car seats. Recently, I believe it was March 27th of this year, they increased, they made the laws a little stricter, added the 4, 5, and 6-year-old age group for booster seats. You'll be driving down the road, you see the children belted in, but mom and dad aren't. They think that it's okay for them not to have their seatbelts on. As long as I got the kids in there belted up, I'm protecting them. What they don't realize is that in a front impact or a rollover, they're not going to be able to hold themselves on that steering wheel to prevent injury to themselves. At 45 miles an hour, a front impact collision, okay, you would have to be able to bench press 2,000 pounds to hold on to that steering wheel and not move. I know there's nobody here that can bench press 2,000. I haven't met anybody before that can. So what that's telling you is you're not going to be able to hold on to that steering wheel and prevent any movement. In the rollover, where the adult's not buckled in, you have all the objects in the vehicle flying around as well as the adult. You take a 200-pound adult, as the vehicle rolls, he's not buckled in, he's going to be slamming off the child. So not only does a child have to endure the initial impact, they have to endure that adult slamming off of them as they're moving around while the vehicle's rolling. Okay? I'm going to unbuckle the adult and demonstrate at this point what happens. Into the child as the adult's rolling on top of the child. that instance, the way it rolled, the adult went to the window, but as it slowed up, you saw how the adult bounces off of the child, which, you know, the child has that additional injury to deal with, okay? Also, you saw the adult didn't actually come out of the window, which in a rollover, it's not always going to happen, okay? You're going to stay in there, but you can see as he was rolling, he's stuck kind of in the window with his back, he's slamming off the ground, all right? And this demonstration right here is sitting in a controlled environment. You also have the ditches, culverts, telephone poles, whatever else is in the way, trees when that vehicle goes off the road and overturns, okay? At this point, I will unbuckle the child, so you'll have the child and the adult in there, and you can just observe what happens when nobody's buckled up inside the vehicle.
It's okay. It's just a dog. It's just a dog. See? It has a zipper on it. It's okay.
For some reason, my adult doesn't want to come out today, but there's a broken arm.
Doesn't mean he's not hurt though.
That doesn't always happen, but that can happen if people don't wear their seatbelts. Okay? That's all we were showing us.
There you go.
Right, as you can see, immediately the young child came out. The smaller objects are going to come out first. The adult didn't come out this time, but you can still see what happens with the rollover, the injury it's going to cause to the child. You also got to remember, like I said earlier, the controlled environment. The vehicle rolls with the objects being ejected. This child, when he's ejected, the child gets shot and the vehicle's going to chase whatever's ejected. So most likely, if you're ejected from the vehicle's going to roll over top of you too. So you don't stand very much of a chance. I just wanted to read to you real quick too. You stop people now with kids that are in kindergarten, first grade, that are the 4, 5, and 6-year-olds. A lot of parents aren't aware of the new law. Okay, the new law is obviously still all children up to age 4 must be in an approved child seat. The new addition to that is children ages 4, 5, and 6 must be properly secured in an appropriate child restraint system, one for which your child meets the height and weight recommendations of the child manufacturer. Okay? There is an exception to that in regards to the weight, which is on the back here. There's a whole list of them. If anybody wants to look at it, they can. Okay? But additionally, you know, if you have young kids in the car, consider that. Is there any questions in regards to this or anything else that I do? Okay, once again,
Thank you.
Once again, I'd like to thank the Champlain Fire Department EMS for inviting me. My name's Trooper Gagno. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be around for a little while, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now it's 90 degrees plus right now. And when the fire whistle blows, it's usually somewhere between 20 below and 90 above. I can remember in the fire in downtown Champlain when the Kaufman block burnt, spending part of that time in Ma Dupi's across the street, and there's firemen out there in nasty cold weather. Today these firefighters are out here, firemen and women, in sweltering heat, and they've got all that fire apparatus, all that fire gear on. You can see the size of this hose. It's a big hose, so you know they can move some water. There we go. When they arrive at the scene, time is precious. All right, new truck number 141, dedicated to Dwayne Tremblay and Lee Guerin. Dwayne dying last fall, a victim of cancer. Lee Guerin, a little over a year ago, about a year and a quarter ago, in a traffic accident. Alright, they're putting water into the tanker. There's the nozzle. That's the water cannon, I believe they call it. One of the hoses has water. And that's probably a lot of pressure for one person to hang on to. And now the second hose has water, and the third, so they can hook up to their source of water with this really big hose. There's a kink in that big hose right here, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the pressure they've got at the other end. And there you have it. And a water cannon also shooting it out. So you've got 3 hoses and a water cannon. And the water cannon is making some people envious. They want to get underneath it. There we go. You have 3 hoses and the water cannon all simultaneously pumping out water. And there you have it. The pumper truck 141. Alright, so now they can control that cannon. Alright, we got a couple of the firemen here with JP Filio and Sparky LePan. Well, we've got a remote control that's running that cannon up there. We'll show that in Walter's hands right here. All right, fill us in.
One of the new innovations we added on this new truck is a remote control deck gun. In 2006, we believe NFPA is actually going to be outlawing the use of water cannons where you have to stand on top of the truck. So what we've done is in anticipation of that, we've incorporated a remote control deck gun. We can operate the gun from the operator's panel, or we can operate it from up to a quarter mile away with this little remote control.
And you can open your garage door too?
Oh, you can open a garage door.
Okay.
Got your oscillating
Not the
button?
way you'd like it.
You got the oscillating button here that you push, and your deck gun just keeps going back and forth. You got your on and off switch to turn it on and turn it off. Then you got your different streams. You got your straight stream, you got your fog stream. You press the fog button, it'll go onto a fog. Stream goes onto a stream, and you got your up and down to bring the gun up or down. And you got left, and you got the right.
So much like a little kid maneuvering a little race car, you might have remote control race car. It's the same type of thought here. You're maneuvering that water cannon.
Yep, precisely. Our other deck gun that we got in the other truck, you got to get on top and you got to move it by hand. This one you don't have to. Just press a button, it goes by itself.
The important thing is we don't have to climb up there in the middle of the winter when everything's icy and end up falling and getting hurt. We can stay right on the ground where we're safe.
It may not be icy when you go up, but by the time you come down with the water, you're going to be icy when you try to get down.
Ice builds up on your stairs and slip right off.
Okay, that's what the firemen wanted to demonstrate today, and it's very adequately demonstrated. That's going to wrap it up here at the Champlain Fire Station, the fire department and EMS having an open house on this June 25th, a Saturday afternoon. Temperature in the 90s, 2005. Thanks for watching.